Adobe Edge Web Fonts is a free service that gives you access to more than 500 fonts for use in your websites. They're integrated into Dreamweaver CC, but you don't need a Creative Cloud account to use them, which means they'll continue working in your web pages even if you stop subscribing to the Creative Cloud. The text in this page has got some basic styles. If I click inside this top-level heading, in the CSS Designer panel, we can see in the Properties section the computed properties show the font family to be Gill Sans. What it doesn't tell you is where that style rule is created. So let's go to the Selectors pane and select H1 and then click the Show Set checkbox. It's not set there, nor is it set there, so we're inheriting the font family from the body style rule. I want to style the 3 levels of headings differently by applying Edge Web Fonts to them. But before you can use an Edge Web Font, you need to enable it in the Manage Fonts dialog box. You do that by going to the Modify menu, selecting Manage Fonts, and opening this dialog box. It's got 3 tabs. Adobe Edge Web Fonts is the first tab. It's selected by default. If you know the name of the font that you're looking for, just type its name in this search field. You can also filter fonts by using these icons on the left. The first one shows you fonts recommended for headings, the next one for paragraphs. You can also select by type of font, so sans fonts, serif fonts, slab fonts, and so on. I know the name of the fonts that I'm looking for, so I'm going to type in the search field. It's Source Sans Pro that I want. There it is. Just click that icon. That blue check mark says it's been selected. One more I need to look for is called Kaushan Script. There it is. Click it to select it. I'm going to empty that search field and then click this icon down here that looks like a check mark, and that shows me those 2 fonts that have been selected, and they'll be available in all of my Dreamweaver sites. So all I need to do now is to click Done. I want to apply Source Sans Pro to all 3 levels of headings, so I could use this style rule. But Adobe Edge Web Fonts are stored on Adobe servers, so they need to be downloaded by the browser. And while they're downloading, the JavaScript that controls them adds a class called wf-loading to the page's opening HTML tag. And once they're ready for use, the class is replaced by wf-active. Now on a fast connection, the fonts are usually available immediately, but to avoid a flash of unstyled text on slower connections, it's recommended to use a descendant selector with at least the wf-active class to apply Edge Web Fonts. So instead of using this style rule, I'm going to create a new one. So I'm going to click the plus button, and the style rule will be .wf-active space h1, comma, and then that same class .wf-active space h2, and again .wf-active h3. Deselect Show Set, and then click the text icon and its font family. If we click that little default font there, it opens that menu, and we can see that Source Sans Pro and Kaushan Script have been added. Select Source Sans Pro. Now the font hasn't yet changed. That's because we're in Design View. Edge Web Fonts are shown only in Live View, so let's turn on Live View. And the font certainly looks very different, but it's actually rather light. So let's have a look and see what's happening. Select highway.css, there's that style rule. Select Show Set, and the font weight has been set at 200. That's the equivalent of extra light. So if we open that little menu, we can see the available font weights. I'm going to select 600, which is semi-bold, and that looks a lot better. The available font weights depend on which font you've chosen, but 400 is normal and 700 is bold. Now I want to apply Kaushan Script to this first word here, Pacific. So to be able to do that, I need to wrap that in what's known as a span tag. First we need to get out of Live View, select that word, right click, wrap tag, and then start typing span. There it is in code hints. Press enter or return twice, and that is now wrapped in a span tag. Span is simply a device for selecting a small part of text that you want to style differently. So let's create that separate style rule. Select highway.css, click the plus button, and it's going to be .wf active. We've now got a code hint for that, so I can select that, then space h1 space span. Deselect show set, go to text, and the font family that I want is Kaushan script. This time the font weight is automatically set to 400, which is normal. And now turn on live view, and there we are. The first word is styled completely differently. One final thing you should do when using Edge web fonts is to go to Commands and then clean up Web Fonts script tag. Just select that and run that little command. What it does is it removes unnecessary font weights. Originally when I used Source Sans Pro it set the font weight to 200. I'm using only 600, but if you leave it without running that script you'll download both font weights, which is unnecessary. So using Edge web fonts is an easy way to give your text a distinctive look. There are more than 500 free fonts, but don't go overboard. Use no more than 2 or 3 on a page. Before you can use an Edge web font, select Manage Fonts from the Modify menu and add the font to your font list. And to avoid a flash of unstyled text, create descendant selectors using the WF active class. One final note about using Adobe Edge web fonts. If I expand the Sources pane, you'll notice that an extra source has been added there. It's usually a single letter. It's generated by the Edge web font on the Adobe server. You can't edit it, just ignore it.